Pokemon Horizon's third arc, Terastal Debut, has finally concluded. For those of you who are out of the loop, this section of the series primarily focused on Liko, Roy, and Dot traveling across Paldea and taking on the gym leaders for their Terastal course, created by the Paldea Pokemon Academy to gain permission to use Terastalization. Basically, it's just a training arc, and I absolutely loved it, as I felt it gave each member of our trio some much needed development from not only a character perspective, but a strength standpoint. The battles were also super fun, and I'm really excited for what Pokemon Horizons has next in store for us. If you can't tell, I'm a big fan of Horizons, but with Terastal Debut, we got a small glimpse of what a true Generation 9 centric Pokemon anime would have been like. I mean, yeah, we have the Paldea starters, some Scarlet and Violet characters here and there, and Terapagos being the main focal point of the story. Horizons is a Generation 9 anime, but it's at most 1 to 5% of everything we could have seen from a true Scarlet and Violet series. So I've been thinking, would a Scarlet and Violet anime have been better than Horizons? Could we get all this amazing stuff we're getting with Horizons, but have a certain Gen 9 flair to it? Well, I'll be answering exactly that in today's video. Well, you can already gather this, today's video is solely my opinion. This is not an objective look at Horizons and a potential Generation 9 series. All I'm doing is looking back at past Gen-centric anime seasons, applying that to Gen 9, and seeing if it would work for me personally. This includes stuff like a main trio, focusing on the characters, region, lore, and overall atmosphere. Paldea would need to feel, 1, a lot bigger than it does in Horizons, and 2, way more alive. We wouldn't just be here sporadically throughout the show. It's our home for the next 140 plus episodes. Luckily, my good friend Zaktoshi has a fan-made Scarlet and Violet series, which allows us to sort of visualize some of the points I'll be making in today's video. And he actually gave me permission to use stuff from the series for today's commentary. So, thanks Zach, I appreciate it a ton. You're saving me hours of editing.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Alright, enough yapping, let's get into the specifics. First of all, like I inferred earlier, the biggest change between a full-blown Gen 9 series and Horizons would be its change in pacing, format, and style. Horizons sort of follows up on the Pokemon Journeys formula. It doesn't like to stick around in one region for too long, and instead, jump around to wherever it really wants to. We've just been in Paldea for most of the time, but the series started in Kanto, and then for a good portion of it took place in Galar and, I don't know, the middle of nowhere, I guess? They never really specify where Part 2 actually takes place, but my guess is somewhere in between Galar and Paldea. The difference with Horizons is that instead of Journeys, which was episodic, Horizons actually has a plot. Whoa, I know, a coherent, overarching story in my Pokemon anime? On a more serious note, I do believe while we could have still had a really good overarching narrative within a Paldea series, it would have been a lot harder. Pokemon Horizons is essentially the writers doing whatever they want. I mean, we have so many anime original concepts. The entire main cast, the villains, Rakua, the Eternal Blessing, Lucius, the Terastal course, and don't even get me started on the 6 heroes. Talk about literally the most random selection of Pokemon ever. I mean, Rayquaza? Entei? Galarian Moltres? Oh yeah, add in Kleavor and Lapras while you're at it too. Who made this team? A 7-year-old who adds legendaries to their normal team the moment they catch them? I was that 7-year-old. The point is, Horizons is absolutely cooking with its original stuff, and it makes the series a lot more exciting in my personal opinion. Even in Journeys, we still had a decent idea of where the story was going, mainly because it was relatively basic, but if we ignore all that and just focus on the Sword and Shield stuff, things were exactly as most people thought they were going to be. Honestly, It did that and was still disappointing. If we do a Gen 9 series, we can have all this cool stuff, but we also have to focus on the gym challenge as an overarching plot and not just something for a single arc. The Titans, Koraidon and Miraidon, the Professors, Team Star, and of course, the climax of Scarlet and Violet in some way. And I'm not trying to say Scarlet and Violet has a bad story. It has a lot of charm. But personally, I like having a show which keeps me constantly on my feet. And Horizons' originality gives us an exciting aspect of unpredictability not really seen in past Pokemon seasons. Like for real, I have no idea where the story is going besides a couple of really big plot points that have been set up to already happen in the near future. With a Gen 9 series, we can still have that, but since we've played the games, it's a lot easier to say, I know what's next. The series would probably follow the progression of the 8 gyms in some way, while also tackling all the star bases and Titans. And I don't know, man. After seeing the potential the Pokemon writers have when they're given complete creative control, I just don't want them to go back to that. And I do think they actually have been utilizing Paldea well in Horizons. Trust me, Galar got absolutely snuffed in Journeys. It was literally only Leon. But Horizons has had entire arcs within Paldea. Its central conflict is centered around a Paldean legendary, and we've seen the implementation of Gen 9 characters in an expert fashion. Take Nemona, who is a fun supporting character / mentor figure, or Grusha, who serves as a physical and then later on mental hurdle for Liko to overcome. Now I do think they could use these guys more, especially Arven. But again, if they did that, we'd have a pretty good idea of where the story would take them. The Pokemon anime rarely changes the whole personality and story of a character from the games, and even when they do, it still has some of the essentials for their story. My point is, let Pokemon cook in doing its own thing. I know some people really like watching the game story play out in animated format, but personally, I think I've made it pretty clear at this point, I like Horizons' approach way more. Alright, I've gone long enough without directly mentioning him, but what about good old Ash Ketchum? Oh, and I guess Team Rocket too. Now, things are a little messy here because I can't use Ash as a point that proves a Scarlet and Violet series would be better or worse than Horizons, because even if we did get a more traditional Gen 9 anime, there's no guarantee Ash would have been the main character or even present within the anime. My whole last point was me pretty much explaining why I don't think a series without him would be better than Horizons, so now let's look at it with him present. To be honest, if you've been watching me for a while, you know where I stand here.
Both too valuable to risk. It should be someone expendable, like Jay.
What?
I'm not an Ash staying fan. I miss the guy, sure, but I have over 1,200 episodes I can go back to and watch whenever I need some eternal 10-year-old and his Pikachu in my life. I have a whole video explaining my perspective on Ash's departure, so I won't explain it in detail here. The gist is, I think even if Ash's conclusion wasn't great, I'm still glad they retired him when they did. But say they didn't, and Ash remained the main character of this theoretical Scarlet and Violet anime. To be honest, it wouldn't suck, but in my opinion be a lot less interesting. To give Paldea some credit, it has the opportunity to do some really interesting things with our boy, like making him a mentor or a teacher, but I don't think they'd do that for the MC. Most likely, Ash's role would be what it's always been, to be a stand-in for the protagonist. He would have to take on the gyms, assist his friends within the 3 storylines, somehow get involved with the Area Zero incident, and probably, not definitely, get either Koraidon or Miraidon. And look, that's fine. I know a ton of people would love that. But for me, nah, I'm good with what we got. Ash is a good character, but I like watching characters who actually have a beginning and end planned out from the start. At least I think they do. Liko, Roy, and Dot's development is a lot more consistent and, to be entirely honest, way more relatable. And that's because they were written with the intention of being characters and not an avatar. As much as I love my guy Ash, he's clearly a stand-in, and I don't want you guys to argue against this. He isn't a blatant one, like he's not like a vanilla carbon copy character, but come on, they don't even try to hide it in Gens 5 through 7. Look at his outfits! On another note, Ash is just boring compared to these main characters we have now. He's kind of too perfect at this point, and while I think he'd be a fun presence and a cool reoccurring character, as the main character, I'll take Rico any day, even if it was a traditional Scarlet and Violet series, just because it's mixing things up and doing something new. So Ash for me isn't gonna convince me that a Scarlet and Violet series would be better just because he's in it. The whole vibe of the series would be twisted on its head, and we wouldn't have as much time to explore the newer characters as we do in Horizons proper. I don't think I really need to keep talking, you know my stance at this point. Pokemon Horizons was, in my opinion, for sure, the right move from a creative standpoint. But I could be sounding crazy to you all, so please let me know that my thoughts on this are bullshit in the comments below, and we can get into a really fun discussion. At the end of the day, this video was just made for fun. With that being said, to enjoy even more high quality Pokemon content, check out the videos on screen right now.